Master your emotions. Before they master you, right now, your life is being controlled by emotions you haven't trained. Every time you overreact, overthink, get offended, lose focus, or seek validation, you hand your power to someone else. This audiobook is about one thing: emotional dominance. If you cannot control your emotions, you cannot control your decisions. If you cannot control your decisions, you cannot control your future. Calm is power. Discipline is freedom. And by the end of this, you will either master your emotions or you will remain mastered by them. The choice is yours. Chapter 1. Stop reacting. Start responding. Most people don't have emotional problems. They have reaction problems. They react to tone. They react to text messages. They react to delays. They react to criticism. They react to social media, and every reaction costs them power. Understand this clearly. When you react without control, you surrender authority over your life. You let someone else press a button, and you jump. That's not strength. That's conditioning. Reaction is emotional slavery. Response is strategic power. That's the key. The difference between a weak mind and a disciplined one is not intelligence. It's not talent. It's not background. It's the space between stimulus and response. Emotional control begins in the gap. You have a choice. When someone sends a message that feels disrespectful, you have a choice. When your partner says something that irritates you, you have a choice. When your boss criticizes your work in front of others, you have a choice. React or respond. Most people react because it feels automatic, immediate, justified. They say, that's just how I am. No, that's not personality. That's lack of discipline. It's not about anger. It's about discipline. Let's make this practical. Imagine you're at work. Your manager says, this isn't good enough. Your heart rate rises. Your jaw tightens. You feel attacked. Your mind says, they don't appreciate me. Reaction says, defend yourself. Interrupt, justify, blame. Response says pause, breathe, decide. 3 seconds. That's all. 3 seconds to stop the emotional hijack. 3 seconds to prevent damage. 3 seconds to stay powerful. The 3-second rule is your first weapon. No emotional decision without delay. No reply without pause. No escalation without thought. Pause, breathe, decide. Again, pause, breathe, decide. That is how you interrupt the automatic reaction loop. Now let's talk about relationships. This is where emotional reactions destroy the most. Your partner forgets something important. You feel disrespected. You react with tone. They react to your tone. Now you're not arguing about the issue. You're arguing about emotion. Reaction multiplies conflict. Response resolves it. Instead of raising your voice, you pause. Instead of sending that long emotional paragraph, you pause. Instead of proving your point, you pause. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need their agreement to control yourself. That's power. Here's the truth most people avoid. Reacting feels strong, but it's actually weakness. Anyone can explode. Anyone can defend. Anyone can argue, but can you stay composed when disrespected? Can you stay steady when criticized? Can you stay silent when provoked? That's strength. It's not about suppressing emotion. It's about directing it. You are not eliminating anger. You are commanding it. You are not denying frustration. You are managing it. Because when you react emotionally, you lose leverage. Think about negotiations. The calmer person wins. Think about leadership. The steady voice commands attention. Think about crisis. The composed mind sees solutions. Calm is advantage. You have a choice. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Some people in your life are used to your reactions. They expect them. They rely on them. Your anger gives them control. Your defensiveness gives them validation. When you stop reacting, you remove their leverage. That will feel uncomfortable at first. You'll feel like you're losing. You'll feel like you're letting things slide. No, you're upgrading your position. It's not about proving. It's about positioning. When you respond instead of react, you gather information. You observe. You think strategically. You decide the outcome instead of becoming part of the chaos. Emotional people create noise. Disciplined people create results. So how do you train this daily? First, slow your physical body. Emotion lives in physiology. When triggered, breathe slowly. Inhale for 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Do it immediately. Pause. Breathe. Decide. Second, lower your voice intentionally during tension. A lower tone forces your nervous system to regulate. It signals control to yourself and others. Third, delay digital responses. Never reply to emotional texts instantly. Draft it. Wait. Reread it later. Half of emotional reactions disappear with time. You have a choice. Every single trigger is training. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Training. Someone ignores your message. Training. Someone questions your ability. Training. Life is not attacking you. It is strengthening you if you use it correctly. It's not about the trigger. It's about your discipline. Most people think emotional control means being cold. That's wrong. It means being intentional. You still feel. You just choose what to do with the feeling. That's the difference. A reaction says, I feel it, so I act. A response says, I feel it, so I assess. Assessment creates strategy. Strategy creates control. And control creates freedom. Let me make this very clear. Every reaction you eliminate increases your authority over yourself, over situations, over outcomes. You stop being predictable. You stop being manipulated. You stop being easy to provoke. You become stable. Stability is rare, and rare is powerful. So starting today, you install one rule. No immediate emotional action. Not in anger, not in excitement, not in fear. Especially not in fear. Because fear-based reactions shrink your life. They make you avoid opportunities. They make you lash out. They make you retreat. Pause, breathe, decide. You will repeat this until it becomes identity. Because the ultimate goal is this. You don't try to respond. You become someone who responds. That's transformation. You mastered the first principle. You learned that the gap is your power. You understood that reaction is slavery and response is strategy. Now it's time to go deeper, because if you want to stop reacting, you must understand what triggers you in the first place. You stopped the reaction. Now let's expose the weakness behind it.
Chapter 2. Your triggers are your weaknesses. You are being controlled every day, not by circumstance, not by others. You are being controlled by your own triggers. Triggers are the weak spots in your armor. They are the buttons someone can press to hijack your mind. They are invisible chains until you notice them. Most people avoid looking at their triggers. They react automatically. They say, I can't help it. That's just how I am. No, that's not who you are. That's where your discipline has not been built. Here's the first truth. If someone can make you angry, they control you. If someone can make you defensive, they control you. If someone can make you anxious, they control you. You have a choice. You can remain a puppet to the tone of their voice, the glance in their eyes, the words in a message, or you can take ownership. You can identify the trigger. You can disarm it. That's the key. Let's break it down. Step 1. Awareness. Awareness is power. Identify the moments that make you react emotionally. It could be criticism. It could be disrespect. It could be rejection. It could be someone interrupting you. It could be social media comments. Write them down. Track them for a week. See patterns. Your triggers are never random. They are repeated. They are predictable. And predictability is your opportunity. You have a choice. Step 2. Understand the why. Ask yourself, why does this trigger me? Is it fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of looking weak? Is it insecurity? Is it envy? Is it pride? Whatever it is, name it, confront it, face it. Because until you understand why, you cannot control it. You don't need their permission to feel calm. You don't need their agreement to master yourself. It's not about stopping the feeling. It's about controlling the response. Step 3. Create the pause. The 3-second rule applies here. Every time a trigger fires, pause, breathe, decide, let it pass through your system without reacting. Feel the discomfort, sit in it. Discomfort is your training ground, the emotional itch you want to scratch. Resist it. That's discipline. It's not about weakness, it's about strength. Let me give you an example. Your coworker criticizes your report. Automatic reaction. You defend yourself. You argue. You justify. You feel embarrassed. Reaction equals loss of control. Response, you pause, you breathe, you assess, you evaluate the criticism objectively. You decide what is useful. You discard what is irrelevant. You respond strategically. Response equals power. You have a choice. Now, here's the dangerous part. People who know your triggers will exploit them. Family members, friends, co-workers, social media trolls. They test boundaries. They observe reactions. And if you react, they win. Every time you give in to a trigger, you reinforce the chain. Stop reinforcing the chain. Break it now. That's the key. Step 4. Train exposure. Expose yourself to small triggers deliberately. Sit in minor annoyances. Face minor slights. Handle small provocations calmly. Every small victory strengthens your nervous system. Every small victory rewires your brain. You learn, I control me. No one else does. You have a choice. Step 5. Replace reaction with strategy. Every time a trigger fires, ask, what's my advantage here? How can I win without losing my peace? Do I need to react or can I respond? This turns weakness into opportunity. Triggers stop being threats. They become training tools. They become signals. Example, a driver cuts you off. Reaction, road rage. Response, slow your breathing. Notice your heart rate. Continue driving. You won. Example, your boss criticizes you unfairly. Reaction, explode. Response, nod. Take notes. Follow up later strategically. You won. Repetition matters. Every day, every situation. You pause, you breathe, you decide. You have a choice. Step 6. Condition the mind to neutrality. Neutrality does not mean indifference. Neutrality means control. Neutrality means observing without surrendering. Neutrality means calming chaos. Practice in small ways. Text messages. Social media. Minor disputes. Pause. Breathe. Decide. Repeat. 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 That's how control becomes habit. That's how triggers lose power. Step 7. Identity shift. You are not someone who reacts. You are someone who responds. You are not at the mercy of tone, words, or criticism. You are in command of your inner state. You have trained. You have prepared. You have chosen discipline over impulsiveness. And here's the reinforcement. This is not optional. If you fail to master your triggers, life will continue to control you. Every argument, every frustration, every moment of tension will steal energy, clarity, and time. You don't have to surrender. You don't have to obey. You have a choice. It's not about the insult. It's about your response. It's not about the attack. It's about your calm. It's not about weakness. It's about discipline. So here is the homework. Write down your triggers. Name the why behind each. Practice the 3-second pause daily. Sit in discomfort. Do not escape. Do not justify. Replace reaction with strategy. Turn weakness into advantage. Repeat until it becomes identity. Because identity is permanent. Habits fade, rules fade, strategies fail. Identity endures. You mastered the gap between stimulus and response in the last chapter. Now you are mastering the source of your reactions, your triggers. Remember, each trigger you control expands your life. Each pause you take strengthens your power. Each moment of discipline rewires your mind for victory. You have a choice every single day, every single moment, every single trigger. And when you control your triggers, nothing can manipulate you. You mastered your triggers. Now, let's talk about what most people waste their energy on: seeking approval. Chapter 3. Detach from the need to be understood. Most emotional reactions are not about anger. They are about validation, the need to be understood, the need to be right, the need to be acknowledged. And that need is draining your power. Let's say it clearly. The constant urge to explain yourself is emotional dependency. When someone misunderstands you and you feel the immediate urge to correct them, that's not strength, that's attachment. When someone questions your decision and you rush to justify it, that's not confidence, that's insecurity seeking approval. You don't need their permission to move forward. You don't need their agreement to stay calm. That's the key. Most people live in reaction mode because they cannot tolerate being misunderstood. A tone changes, a text feels cold, a comment sounds dismissive, and immediately they react. They type paragraphs, they raise their voice, they defend their character. Reaction is emotional slavery. Response is strategic power. You have a choice. In that moment, when someone misreads you, you can either chase clarity or protect your peace. Chasing clarity often turns into chasing approval. And chasing approval is weakness disguised as communication. Let's make this practical. At work, your manager says, "I expected more from you." Your mind says, "They think I'm incompetent." You want to explain every detail, every obstacle, every effort. Pause, breathe, decide. The 3-second rule applies here. No emotional decision without delay. No defensive explanation without thought. You can respond strategically. Understood. What specifically would you like improved? Short, calm, controlled. You don't need their permission to remain composed. In relationships, this weakness shows up even more. Your partner says, "You don't listen." Immediately, you respond, "That's not true, I always listen. Remember last week?" Now you're arguing about identity instead of solving the issue. Why? Because you needed to be understood. But here's the truth. Not everyone will understand you. Not everyone needs to. It's not about misunderstanding. It's about discipline. Discipline to stay steady when your ego feels attacked. Discipline to resist the urge to prove. Discipline to let silence work for you. Silence is strength. When you stop over-explaining, people feel your stability. When you stop defending every detail, you project confidence. When you stop correcting every perception, you gain authority. Weak people explain. Strong people execute. You have a choice. This does not mean you never clarify. It means you clarify strategically, not emotionally. Here's how you train this. Step 1. Notice the emotional spike when misunderstood. That spike is ego, not truth. Step 2. Pause, breathe, decide. Step 3. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Energy is currency, and you are spending it too cheaply. Not every misunderstanding deserves correction. Not every accusation deserves defense. Not every opinion deserves engagement. You don't need their permission to stay silent. Here's another scenario. Someone on social media criticizes your work. Your instinct: respond immediately. Prove them wrong. Protect your image. Pause, breathe, decide. Is this building your future or feeding your ego? That's the key. Emotional control means detaching from the outcome of how people perceive you. You cannot control perception. You can only control behavior. When you focus on behavior instead of perception, you gain freedom. It's not about reputation. It's about discipline. Now let's go deeper. Why do you crave being understood? Because misunderstanding feels like rejection. Rejection feels like loss of status. Loss of status triggers fear, and fear drives reaction. But here's the transformation. You stop fearing being misunderstood when you are secure in your direction. Clarity eliminates defensiveness. When you know who you are, you don't argue about it. You don't need their permission to believe in yourself. In high-level negotiations, the most powerful person is not the loudest, it's the calmest. They don't rush to fill silence. They don't overshare. They don't chase approval. They listen. They assess. They respond. Response is strategic power. If you constantly explain yourself, you lower your perceived value. Think about it. Do leaders over-explain every decision? No. They state. They move. They adjust if necessary. Confidence is quiet. You have a choice. The next time someone misunderstands you, test this. Instead of defending, say, I hear you. Instead of arguing, ask one calm question. Instead of sending that emotional paragraph, send nothing. Silence is uncomfortable at first, but discomfort is training. You are rewiring your emotional patterns. You are breaking the addiction to approval. You are proving to yourself that you don't collapse under perception. And here's the deeper shift. When you stop chasing understanding, people often respect you more. Because calm signals control. Control signals confidence. Confidence commands attention. It's not about being cold. It's about being grounded. Let's reinforce this. You don't need their permission. You don't need their validation. You don't need their complete understanding. You need discipline. Discipline to hold your center. Discipline to protect your energy. Discipline to choose silence when necessary. Pause, breathe, decide. The 3-second rule is not just about anger. It's about ego. That gap between stimulus and response, that is where maturity lives. And maturity is power. When someone misunderstands you and you remain calm, you win. When someone questions you and you stay steady, you win. When someone disagrees and you don't crumble, you win. Not because you convinced them, but because you controlled yourself. That's the theme of this entire book. Master your emotions before they master you. And the need to be understood is one of the strongest emotional traps. Release it, stand firm, move forward, let actions speak. You mastered reaction. You identified triggers. Now you are detaching from approval. But emotional control goes deeper than other people. Because the loudest misunderstanding often comes from inside your own mind. You handled external perception. Now it's time to control internal narrative. Chapter 4. Control the story in your head. Your emotions are not controlled by reality. They are controlled by the story you tell yourself about reality. That's the key. 2 people experience the same situation. One collapses emotionally, the other stays calm and strategic. The event is identical. The difference is interpretation. Your mind creates a story, and that story produces emotion. If someone doesn't reply to your message, one story says they are busy. Another story says they are ignoring me. Same event, different story, different emotion. And most people never question the story in their head. They react to it. They believe it instantly. They defend it emotionally. They build entire moods around assumptions. Reaction is emotional slavery. Response is strategic power. You have a choice. Let's slow this down. Every emotional reaction begins with a thought, not a fact, a thought. Your boss walks past you without saying hello. The mind instantly creates a story. Something is wrong. They're upset with me. I must have done something wrong. Now the emotion appears, anxiety. But notice something important. The emotion did not come from the event. It came from the interpretation. That's the key. The event is neutral. Your interpretation gives it meaning. This is where emotional discipline begins. Pause, breathe, decide. Instead of believing the first story your mind creates, question it. Ask yourself, what else could this mean? Maybe they are distracted. Maybe they didn't notice you. Maybe they are dealing with pressure you know nothing about. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You only need discipline. Most people let their mind become a drama machine. Every small situation becomes a catastrophic narrative. A late reply becomes rejection. A disagreement becomes disrespect. A delay becomes failure. That's not reality. That's imagination without discipline. It's not about overthinking. It's about discipline. Let's look at another example. You post something online and receive criticism. Your mind instantly creates a story. People hate my work. Now emotion follows. Anger, insecurity, frustration. But pause. Is that the truth? Or is that a story your mind created to protect your ego? You have a choice. You can react emotionally, or you can respond strategically. Pause, breathe, decide. Then ask a better question. What is actually happening here? Maybe one person disagrees. Maybe the feedback is useful. Maybe the criticism says more about them than about you. That's the key. When you control the story in your head, you control your emotions. When you let the story run wild, the emotions run wild too. This happens constantly in relationships. Your partner seems quiet. Your mind creates a story. They're upset with me. Now tension grows. You act defensive. You ask questions with attitude. Suddenly, you've created conflict that didn't exist because of a story. Most emotional conflicts are not caused by facts. They are caused by interpretations, and interpretations are choices. You have a choice. Now let's go deeper. Your brain evolved to detect threats. Thousands of years ago, that kept you alive. But today, the brain still scans for danger, even when none exists. It exaggerates problems. It predicts rejection. It imagines worst-case outcomes. If you don't discipline the mind, it becomes a fear generator. That's why controlling the internal story is essential, not by denying reality, by evaluating it calmly. Pause, breathe, decide. Here's a powerful mental tool, reframing. Reframing means choosing a different interpretation. Rejection becomes redirection. Criticism becomes feedback. Delay becomes preparation. You failed an interview? The weak story says, I'm not good enough. The disciplined story says, this is training. You have a choice. Which story strengthens you? Which story weakens you? That's the key, because the story you repeat becomes your belief, and belief shapes behavior. If your story is, I always fail, you stop trying. If your story is, I'm learning, you keep improving. Same situation, different future. It's not about the event, it's about the narrative. Here's a simple daily exercise. Whenever you feel a strong emotion, stop and ask 3 questions. What happened? What story am I telling myself? Is there another possible interpretation? This process slows down emotional reactions. It inserts awareness into the system. And awareness creates control. You don't need their permission to interpret events differently. You choose the story. Let's apply this in the workplace again. Your boss rejects your idea in a meeting. Automatic story, they don't respect me. Emotion, frustration, pause, breathe, decide. Alternative story, the idea needs refinement. Emotion, motivation. See the difference? Same event, different story, different outcome. That's emotional discipline. And here's something most people don't realize. The story you repeat becomes your identity. If your internal narrative is always negative, you train yourself to expect defeat. But if your narrative is disciplined, you build resilience. You start seeing challenges as training instead of attacks. You start seeing pressure as opportunity instead of danger. You start seeing mistakes as feedback instead of failure. That's the transformation. It's not about eliminating emotion. It's about guiding it. And guiding emotion begins with guiding thought. Control the story. Control the emotion. Control the outcome. You have a choice. Every time something happens in your life, you will tell yourself a story about it. Choose wisely. Choose strength. Choose discipline. Choose perspective. Because if you don't control the story in your head, the story will control you. And once the story controls you, your emotions follow. But once you take command of that narrative, everything changes. Your reactions slow down. Your mind becomes clear. Your decisions become strategic. You become dangerous in the best way, calm, focused, unshakable. You mastered reaction. You identified your triggers. You detached from the need to be understood. Now, you control the internal narrative that shapes your emotions. But emotional mastery requires another level. You must train your ability to endure discomfort, because the moment things become uncomfortable, most people escape, and escape destroys discipline. You controlled the story in your head. Now it's time to strengthen your ability to stay present inside emotional pressure. Chapter 5. Train emotional endurance. Most people don't fail because they lack intelligence. They fail because they cannot tolerate discomfort. The moment pressure appears, they escape. They argue. They complain. They distract themselves. They quit. And every time they escape discomfort, they weaken their emotional muscles. That's the truth. Emotional strength is not built in comfort. It is built in endurance. That's the key. Just like your body becomes stronger by resisting weight, your mind becomes stronger by resisting emotional pressure. But most people do the opposite. They avoid pressure. They avoid difficult conversations. They avoid criticism. They avoid silence. And the result is a fragile mind. You have a choice. You can continue escaping discomfort, or you can train yourself to stay inside it, because emotional endurance changes everything. Let's start with something simple. Think about the last time you felt uncomfortable in a conversation. Maybe someone criticized you. Maybe someone disagreed with you. Maybe someone raised their voice. What did you do? Did you pause? Or did you react? Most people react instantly. They defend. They interrupt. They raise their voice. Why? Because emotional discomfort feels threatening. But here is the truth. Discomfort is not danger. It is training. Pause. Breathe. Decide. That moment of discomfort is where endurance is built. If you stay calm for 5 seconds longer than usual, you win. That's the key. Emotional endurance grows slowly, one moment at a time, one pause at a time, one calm response at a time. It's not about eliminating discomfort. It's about expanding your capacity to handle it. Let's look at a workplace example. Your manager criticizes your work in front of others. Your heart rate rises. Your ego feels attacked. Your instinct is to defend yourself immediately. But this is where endurance begins. Pause, breathe, decide. Instead of reacting, you listen. You let the moment pass. You collect information. You respond later with clarity. You don't need their permission to stay composed. That's discipline. And discipline builds endurance. Now let's talk about relationships. Arguments are emotional pressure tests. One person raises their voice, the other person reacts. Suddenly the conversation becomes a competition of emotion. But emotional endurance breaks this cycle. When someone becomes emotional, you slow down. You lower your voice. You listen longer. You respond calmly. This does not mean you agree with them. It means you refuse to lose control. You have a choice. You can react and escalate the conflict. Or you can endure the pressure and lead the conversation. That's the key. Leadership is emotional endurance. The strongest person in the room is the calmest person in the room. Not the loudest, not the most aggressive, the calmest. Because calm signals control, control signals power, and power shapes outcomes. But let's be honest. Training emotional endurance is uncomfortable. When you stop reacting, your body still feels the emotion. Your heart races, your thoughts speed up, but you stay still. You breathe slowly. You let the wave pass. That's discipline. It's not about weakness, it's about strength. Think about athletes. A runner does not stop when their legs burn. They train their body to tolerate the burn. Emotional endurance works the same way. When criticism burns, stay present. When pressure rises, stay calm. When discomfort appears, stay steady. You have a choice. Every uncomfortable moment is training. Someone interrupts you in a meeting. Training. Someone challenges your idea. Training. Someone questions your decision. Training. You stay calm. Pause. Breathe. Decide. Over time, something powerful happens. The situations that used to trigger you no longer control you. The comments that used to anger you lose their power. The pressure that used to overwhelm you becomes manageable. Because you have trained endurance, it's not about personality, it's about discipline. And discipline compounds. One moment of endurance becomes 2. 2 becomes 10. 10 becomes identity. Soon, people start noticing something different about you. You are harder to provoke, harder to intimidate, harder to manipulate, not because you are cold, because you are trained. That's the transformation. But there is another important lesson here. Emotional endurance is not just about handling negative pressure, it's also about resisting impulsive pleasure. Impulses are emotional shortcuts, angry text messages, impulse spending, emotional decisions. All of these are escapes from discomfort. But disciplined people delay action. They pause, breathe, decide. They give themselves time to think, because time creates clarity, and clarity creates control. You don't need their permission to slow down. You only need discipline. Here's a practical exercise. Every day, choose one uncomfortable moment and stay present in it. If a conversation becomes tense, stay calm. If someone criticizes you, listen fully. If you feel the urge to react, wait 10 seconds longer. Just 10 seconds. Those 10 seconds are emotional weightlifting. They build strength, and strength builds freedom. Because the moment you can endure emotion without reacting, you become powerful. You stop being controlled by moods. You stop being controlled by pressure. You stop being controlled by other people's energy. You master yourself. That's the entire mission of this book. Master your emotions before they master you, and endurance is the bridge. Without endurance, emotional control collapses. With endurance, emotional control becomes natural. You have a choice. Every uncomfortable moment gives you an opportunity. Escape the pressure or grow through it. Weak minds escape. Disciplined minds endure, and endurance builds calm. But there is another layer of emotional power that most people overlook. Silence. Most people think power comes from speaking, but often the greatest power comes from not speaking at all. You trained your reactions, you exposed your triggers, you controlled your internal narrative, you built emotional endurance. Now it's time to sharpen one of the most underestimated tools in emotional mastery: